In this video, we will be developing a basic in-out inventory system using the Excel VBA User form. Like before, let me show you how this tool will work after we build it. Clicking this button will open the main inventory system user form. It shows the current system date, and here in the menu section, you can click these buttons to navigate to the products, receive, and sales page. The stock inventory section will show the current inventory items with the product details, the receive and sales transaction, and the number of stocks. Now let's try to add a product by clicking the products button, enter the product code, name, units, price, and remarks is optional. Click the add button to add the product details to the list. Clicking the exit button will return us to the main form, and we can also see the product we just added on this page. Let's add a receive transaction by clicking the receive button, select the product code, and it will automatically generate the product name. Enter the receive quantity and click the add button to add the transaction to the receive list. Clicking the exit button will again return us to the main form, and we should see the receive value change in the inventory. We can also add sales by clicking the sales button, select the product code, and it will automatically generate the product name. Enter the sales quantity and click the add button to add the transaction to the sales list. Clicking the exit button will return us to the main form, and we should see the product sales count change in the inventory. Now that you have the idea, let's start developing this tool. I will start with this pre-designed template, and you can also download this template on our site. I will put the link in the video's description so you don't need to start from the scratch. After downloading the template, open it, and here you will see that all the worksheets are pre-designed. So these are the worksheets that we need to develop the tool. Also, if you check the VBA editor, all the user forms are here and already pre-designed. So let's start the coding by opening our VBA editor. Again, you can press Alt F11 from your keyboard. And here we will start by inserting a new module. So right click anywhere from here and select Insert the new module. We will name this module Inventory. And here in this module, we will start by declaring public variables for each worksheet object. So let's start with the product sh. And the type should be worksheet. Next is the receive sh. Then we'll name the sales sh, and the stock sh, and then the start sh as worksheet. So this technique is helpful, so we don't need to write the complete reference to each worksheet every time we need them. We also need to declare a constant public variable for the message box title. So we'll do that by declaring public constant m title. That will be our variable name for the message box title. And that should be of type string. And we will assign a value to it. We will assign inventory system. And in this module, the first procedure that we will create is the uh, initialize sheet. So let's name that initialize sheet. And this procedure will initialize all our worksheet variable. So we will be using the with this workbook command so that we don't need to type this workbook every time we are declaring each worksheet object. We can start with the first worksheet variable, the product sh. So we'll say that sheets products, and next is the oops, should be product sh before I forgot. Next is the receive. You can use the IntelliSense of PBA by pressing Control space from your keyboard. That should be the receive. I'm using the sheet name here as my reference. Next is the sales. That is the sheets, sales, and then the stocks. That will be our stocks. Last is the start sh. That should be our start. All right. Next, we also need to create a procedure for showing the main user form, and we will name that procedure start inventory. And later, we will assign this procedure to our inventory system button in the start worksheet. So the code that we need here is just to call the main form. All right, so that is all that we need for our inventory module. We can test it by clicking this run button to make sure that we don't have any errors, especially on the spelling of the worksheet name and assigning it to our worksheet object. So now that we have this completed, we can start editing the code for our product user form. Next, we can start editing the product user form code. So from the forms window, right click on the FRM product user form and select view code. And here, the code that you see here are for hiding the form title bar of our user form. So let's add some space in here. And we'll create our first sub procedure for this code. We will name this get products. And this sub procedure will be getting all the available products in the products worksheet. So that is our one of our worksheet in here. And here, first we need to declare a last row variable. It should be of integer type, and it will hold the last row with value in the column A of the products worksheet. So to do that, let's assign it to let's access the product sh variable first, and then range A and rows that count that end, Excel app, the row. And then after that, we will be setting our products list box row source property to the based on the last product row. So here our product range is A to E, and our first row in this product worksheet is the row 3. So to set that, again, go to view code. We'll continue with this procedure. We'll access the list box name, that is LST products, and then the property, which is the row source, and we will assign that to the products worksheet, exclamation point. The first cell is A3, and the last column is E, and then we will concatenate that to the last row variable volume. Next is we need to add a user form activate event. So to do that, look for the user form object here. And by default, it will give you the click event. And here, just hover your cursor or put your cursor within here and look for the activate event. And that will create a new procedure. So let's delete, no, let's just delete the space in here. And let's add some space in here. So for our user form activate event, we'll start by calling our initialize sheet procedure to set our worksheet variables. Then we'll also call the get products procedure to refresh our products list box. And then we will also call the hide form title bar to hide our user form title bar. So we can test it from here, and you can see that we don't have the title bar anymore. And right now, that's all that we have. We don't have a data yet for our products list box, so we don't see anything in here yet. So let's continue with the coding. Next step, next step here is to edit the add command button. So from the products user form, double click on the add command button, and it will create a procedure for the add command button. And in this procedure, we will start by declaring a variable for each product detail. So we need to have 5 variables for these fields. So let's start with the code. Code is of type string, then product is also string, and the units is also string. For the price, we need to declare it as double. And for the remarks, we will also declare it as of type string. So once we have the variable available, we can start assigning the user form control value to each variable. I will just put a comment first. So let's start with the code. Code is equals to the txt code that value. The product is the txt product dot value. Units is also txt units dot value. For the price, we need to convert the value of the txt product to double. So CDBL is convert to double function that convert the value into a double data type. Because remember, we declare this variable as of type double. And for the remarks, we can set that to the txt remarks dot value. So don't get confused, where did I get this txt code txt product? That is the name of our control in the user form. If you activate them, you can see here that's our txt code. This is the txt product and this is the txt unit. Alright, so now the next step in here is to validate if all the fields have value. So we'll start by checking the code. It should not be equals to null or an empty string. Same with the product as well as the units. And for the price, we cannot check it using a string, so we'll be using greater than. It should be at least greater than 0. And let's close our if statement. We'll also add the else here. So if there's at least one field that is blank, then we will notify the user to complete all the fields using a message box. So we'll type message box and we'll say, please complete all the fields. And it should be let's add an exclamation icon to the message box. And here we can use the mtitle variable that we declared earlier in our inventory module. Let's go back to the products code. Now, if all the variables have a value, we can start adding the product details to the next available row in the products worksheet. But first, we need to know what is the next available row in the products worksheet. So we will declare a next row variable. It should be of type integer. And then here I will just add a comment for the products sheet. And I will be using the with again, with command to access the product sh variable. And within this product sh object, we will first set the next row variable that should be equals to the last row with value in the column A. Excel app dot row, and we need to add one to get the next available row. If we forget to add one, then it will return two. Adding one will return the next available row. So in this case, if we execute it, it will return 3 in here because this is the next available row in our column A in the product worksheet. So after getting the next available row, we can start assigning the variable value to each column in the products sheet. So let me just copy the column name for my reference, units, price, and remarks. So we'll start with row A or column A. And we will concatenate the next row. That value is equals to our code. And I will just copy this for the other column as well. B, C, D, E. And let's change this to B, C, D, and E. So the next column is the product. So product. And the C is the units. These are the variable that we declare in here. And for the D, that is the price. And for the column E, that is the remarks. All right. So now, next step is to also add the product details to the stocks worksheet because each product should be an item in our inventory. So every time we add the product, it should also be added in the stocks table. So I will also add a comment in here that we are dealing with the stocks sheet. So let's also use the with command to access the stocks worksheet. And here we also need to find the next available row in the stacks worksheet. We will also use the column A as the reference. So next row is equal to that range, that count, that end, Excel app, that row, and again add one for the next available row. And for the columns, let me copy that again. So, or we can actually code from here, but yeah, let me just copy the name instead. Units, received, sales, tax, price, and total. Now let's get it back. All right, so let's start with the first column, that is range A, and then we'll concatenate that to the next row variable. That should be equals to the code, and we will just copy this for the other column. That is up to H, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Now let's replace the column D, E, F, G, H. Then for the product, we will assign product. For the units, units. Now for the receive value, so every time we add a product, this column value should be set to 0. Same with the sales and the stocks. So for the price, we will set that to our price variable. And for the total, we can also initialize that with a 0 value. So now that we have the product details added to both the product sheet and the stock sheet, the next step here is to clear our form control or the text box value. So clear form text box values. Let's start with the product. So txt product. To clear its value, we just need to set its value to null. Then the code value and the unit that value. Oops. The price that value, and last is the remarks that value. And lastly, for this procedure, we need to call the get products to refresh our product list box. So call get products. That's the first procedure that we created for this user form. So after adding that, let me check what else do we need in here. All right, so we also need to edit the code of this close label or the X label. So double click that label, and in here, okay, let me remove this. So in this label close procedure, we just need to unload this user form by typing unload me, and we need to return to the main user form if we close this user form. So to do that, we will also call the frm main. And let me check what else did we miss. I think that's all. We can now test this code by clicking the run button. So we can enter a code for our first product. We will say AO1 and maybe it's a pen. Unit is box. For the price, maybe we can say 15 and hit add, and we get a debug here. So for the price, we had an error because there is a type mismatch. What is our, oh, okay, so I set it to txt product. It should be txt price because that is our text box for the price. Let me try it again. Let's run, enter our first product code A01. Should be pen. Unit is box. For the price, we can say 15. Hit the add button. And here you will see that the product details is added to our products list box. And if I close this, you can see that that product detail is also added in our stock inventory. And this list box is referencing to the stocks worksheet. So you can see the pen details in here as well as in the product worksheet. So that's all for our product user form. Next, let's edit the code for the received user form. Next, we will be working on the receive user form code. But before that, if you are enjoying this video, please give this video a like, and you can also subscribe if you haven't subscribed so that you get updated for the new video that I am uploading, especially related to VBA coding. So going back for the receive user form, let's start by viewing the code for this user form. And here you will see that we also have a code for hiding the user form title bar. So let's add some space in here. And let's start here by creating a sub procedure for getting the available products code from the stack worksheet. So here in our stacks worksheet, we need to get this codes value in here, and we will be adding that as an item to the code combo box. So let's name the procedure get codes, and we will start creating a loop. So I will be using for loop. So for A, we will start with 3 because the first row with value in the stacks worksheet column A is 3, and that should be up to the last row with value in the column A of the stacks worksheet. Excel up that row and close our loop, and then we'll need to add the code to the codes combo box. So our combo box name is CBO codes. This is our combo box control. So later we should have all the codes in the stacks worksheet added here as an item. So let's go back to the code and we'll say CBO code that add item, and we will add the value of the column A and the current loop counter. All right. Next is we need to create a sub procedure for getting the received transactions. So that will be referencing to our receive worksheet and get all the details in here and show to our receive list box. So to do that, we'll create a procedure and name it get receive items. And in here, we need to first start by declaring a last row variable. It should be of integer type, and this variable should hold the last row with value referencing column A of the receive worksheet. So our receive worksheet variable is receive sh, and then oops, that row. And after we get the last row in that worksheet, we will set the row source property of our receive list box. So lst receive that row source is equals to, that is our receive worksheet, and the first cell is A3 to F. So A3 to F, and we will concatenate the last row variable so that this code is flexible depending on the last row in our receive worksheet. All right, next we need to add a user form activate event. Again, just look for the user form object in here, and it will generate the click event by default. But what we need is the activate event. So look for the activate event, and let's remove the space in here, add some space in here. So for our activate events, first we need to call the initialize sheet procedure to set our worksheet variables, and then we'll also call the get codes, the first procedure that we created, and also the hide form title bar to hide our user form title bar. All right. Next here is we need to declare public variables for our product details. So we will be doing that on the very top of this user form code. So let's declare one for the code. It should be of type string. The product is also string. Units a string. And for the price, we'll also use string for now. And we will also declare a public variable for the product row. So later I will explain why do we need that variable. So after that, the next step is to edit the combo box for the code, because if we test this now, you will see that we have now the only one product code available. And what we want to happen is that every time we select a code in here, it should automatically generate the product name that matches that product code. So to do that, we need to code in the combo box event. Okay, this is not working yet, so let's stop that from the VBA editor. And from the receive user form, double click on the combo box. And here you will see that the default event for that combo box is changed. So first in this procedure, we need to check if there is a selected item in the codes combo box. So we will say CBO codes that value is not equals to null, meaning there's a selected item. So next we need to get the product row that matches the selected code. So we will be looping into uh, the stocks worksheet to get the product details. So let's say for A is equals to 3 to stock sh that range A and rows that count that end Excel that row. I will add some comment here. Loop in the stocks worksheet and get the product details matching the selected code. All right. Next, inside the for loop, we need to check if the CBO code or the stock sh that range A and A that value is equals to CBO codes that value, then meaning that is the product row that we are looking for. So if that condition is met, we need to exit 4 because we already found the product details, and we can start assigning the product details to our public variable. So let's start with the product row. That will be equals to our loop counter variable. So let's say, for example, you selected this code AO1. In the loop, it will find this code and will grab this row number 3. And that will be the value that will be assigned to our product row variable. Next, let's assign the other value to the other variable. For the code, that is the, uh, maybe we can say with stock sh in here. So we don't need to write stocks sh every time. And for the code variable, that should be the range A and A that value. Next is the product. So product is equals to that range B and A that value. Next is the units. So units, did I say units in there? Yeah, with S. Units is equals to that C and A that value. And for the receive, we don't need those details yet. Next is the price. So for the price, that is our range G, that value. All right. And next we need to set this text value depending on the product code. So to do that, uh, set the product text value. So that is txt product. That value is equals to product. So now we can test this code. Let's say, for example, we select the only product we have, and you can see here that it automatically generate the product name and assign that to our product text field. Next is we need to edit the code for our add command button in here. So let's stop this again and double click in the add command button. And in here, we need to first create a variable for the quantity field and assign the quantity text box to that value. And next, we need to validate if all the fields have value. So here we just only have three fields and we will validate that. So the first one is the CBO code, or we can also access the variable instead of the form control. So code is not equals to null, and the product name is not equals to null, and as well the quantity should not be equals to null. So if there's at least one field that is empty, we can again notify the user to complete all the fields. Again, exclamation icon and M title for the message box title. Now, if all the variable has a value, next step for us is to insert that uh, transaction or receive transaction details to our receive worksheet. So, but before that, we need to find the next available row in the receive worksheet. So we'll declare a next row variable, should be of integer type, and again we'll start with the receive sheet. Well, we'll start adding the data to the receive worksheet. So we'll be using with again and access the variable for our receive worksheet. And here we can set the next row variable that should be equals to the last row with value in the column A of the receive worksheet. We add 1 for the next available row, and we can now start assigning the value to each of the column. So let me again copy those column name. So date, code, product, units, quantity, and price. All right. So for the date, that is our column A. So that should be equals to the current date, and we will format that to this format. Then for the next column, the B, that is our code. I will just copy this for the other column. So it's product, unit, quantity, and the price. And let's just edit it. Is that up to F? Yep. So for the column C, that will be our product variable. So for D, that is our units. And for E is the quantity. And this is the price. Should we add price in here? Okay. Do we have a price variable? Yep, we also get that. All right. So after adding the receive transaction to our receive worksheet, we also need to update the receive column in our stocks worksheet. So we need to increment this value in our receive column. So to do that, we can add a comment here to identify that we are now dealing with the stocks worksheet. And in here, we know that the product row is, we already have a variable that holds the target product row, so we don't need to find that anymore. We can start updating the receive value. So I will declare a variable first that new receive, as we can set it as an integer type, and new receive is equals to the current receive value. So we can say range, what is that? Column D and product row dot value plus the quantity or the added value. And after that, we can set the receive column to the new receive value. Let's add some comment here. Next, we also need to update the stocks column because every time you have a new received transaction, the stocks should also be incremented. So here, let's also declare a new stocks variable, and new stocks should be first equals to the current stocks value. So that is range or column F, and we will add the quantity. And then we can set the new stock value equals to the new stock value. All right. And we also need to update the total price because our total price formula is the receive multiplied by the price. So to do that, let's add some comment here. So dim total price as integer. Total price is equals to, we will be using the new receive variable. So new receive multiply by the price variable. And then we can set our total price value, that is the column H. So the range H and product row, that value is equals to the total price. And after that, the next step here is to call the get receive items procedure to refresh our receive transaction list box. So to do that, we can just say call get receive items. I will add a comment, refresh list. And lastly, we need to clear our user form controls. So clear, we'll start with the CBO code. We can say that clear to remove all the items, and then we'll just call get codes again to refresh the combo box item. Then the txt product, that value should be set to null or an empty string, as well as the quantity, that value. And after that, next step is to add the code to the close label here. So double click in this X label. And similar on the products form, we will unload this user form when this label is clicked, and we will return to the main form. Right, now we can test this code. So let's click this run button. And here we can select our only product, AO1, that is the pen, and we can add here like maybe 20. So if we click add, you can see that the product or the received transaction details is added in our list box. And if we close this, we can see that we have now value in our receive column as well as the stocks. And the total is also updated based on the receive value multiplied by the price. All right, so we have already completed the receive user form. The next step is to edit our sales user form. Next, we can edit the code for our sales user form. So if you will notice, this user form is similar to our receive user form. So we can just copy some of the codes that we have on the receive user form to this user form. So here, let's start by selecting view code for the sales user form. And let's add some space here for our code. And again, as I mentioned, we can copy some of the code in the receive user form. So let's go to receive user form. Here we can copy the get codes. Copy that. Go to the sales. We'll paste that. We can also copy the public variables declaration as well as the product row. So here, view code, need to put that declaration on top of the code. And then we will also copy the change event in the select code jumbo box. So double click here and let's just copy this.
Now activate the sales user form, double click on the combo box, and let's add some space. Right, now let's paste that here. And let me see what else we can cap in here. I think that's all. So now let's go back to the sales code, and here we need to add a user form activate events. So let's look for the user form object and look for the activate event. So let's remove this space in here, add some space. So for the activate event, let's start by calling the initialize sheet procedure, and then we'll also call the get codes and the hide form title bar to hide our user form title bar. We also need a procedure for calling all the sales transaction and set our sales list box. So I will name that procedure get sales. So in this procedure, we need first to get what is the last row in the sales worksheet. So you should be familiar with this code. Let's declare a last row variable first. It should be of integer type, and that is equals to the sales sh that range. Once we get the last row in that worksheet, we can set our sales list box, that is our LST sales. So LST sales that row source is equals to the sales worksheet. The start cell is A3 to F. So we'll say A3 here to F and concatenate the last row variable. And we also need to call this procedure in our activate event. So call get sales. All right. Now we can test this to see if everything is working fine. This code is also working, and it also automatically populate our product text field. So that should be good. Next, we need to add the code for our add command button. So let's tap it first. Then double click on the add command button. And here we will also create a quantity variable and set that equals to our txt quantity.value. Next, we will validate if all fields of value. So that will be the code should be not equals to null, as well as the product and the quantity. Again, we can also notify the user using message box to complete all fields if there's at least one field with no value. Please complete all fields. We'll use exclamation icon and the message box title variable. So now if all fields are complete, we will be inserting the product or the sales details into our sales worksheet, and we will be also updating the stocks as well as the sales column in our stocks worksheet. Let's start with the sales worksheet. So first we need to know what is the next available row here. So we'll declare next row variable should be of integer type. So next row, before we set that, let me add a comment here first and use the with command. Now we can set our next row variable that should be equals to the last row with value in the column A, and we need to add 1. Then we can set the columns. So the first column is the date. So that is we need to format the date. Date is the now variable. This will be our date format. Next is the column B. for the code, and we can just copy this for the other column. So C, D, E, F. Let's change this. And next is the product, then the units, quantity, and last is the price, right? All right. Now, after inserting the sales details to our sales worksheet, we need to update the stocks worksheet. So let's access the stock sh variable. Let's also, oh, we don't need to find out the row because we have the variable product row that returns the product row in our stocks worksheet. So first we need to update the sales column. So to do that, I will declare a new sales variable, and new sales is equals to the current sales column value, that is column E. So that range E and product row that value, and we need to increment that column value, so we will add the quantity, and then we can set that row value to the new sales. And also we need to update the stocks column because every time we have a sale, it should less to our stocks value. So update the stock column. So dim new stock as integer. So new stock is equals to the previous value, which is the value in column F, and we will less the quantity, the sales quantity. Then we can set that stock column value to the new stock variable value. All right, so after that, we can call the get sales procedure to refresh the sales list box. So we'll just say call get sales, and we also need to clear the form control values similar to what we did in the receive user form. So let's start with the CBO codes. We need to clear that combo box and just call the get codes to refresh the combo box item. Then for the product, we need to set that value to an empty string as well as the quantity that value. All right, then in the user form, we also need to edit the code of this X label. So double click on that label, and we just need to unload this form after clicking that button and return to the main user form. All right, I guess we can now test this user form to see if everything is working fine. Let's click the run button and let's select our only product code, which is AO1, which is the pen. And here, maybe let's say we have a two quantity sales. If we hit add, that item is added to our sales list. We can again have a sales. Let's just try. Let's have another, or maybe three quantity. If we hit add, we can see that we have now two sales transaction for the product pen. Now, if we check our stocks, we can see that for the pen, initially we have 20 items received, and now our stocks is only 15 because we have five sales transaction that we just did. So I think this is working and it shows me the expected value. Now we can, or next we can work on this main user form to modify some of the code in here, like the day to day and then the code for showing the product receive and the sales page. Now let's work on our last user form, which is our main user form. So here let's start by viewing the code for this form, and let's add some space for our code. Here we will start by creating a sub procedure for getting all the inventory stock items from the stocks worksheet. So we need to get these items in here and uh, place that to our stocks inventory list box. So we will name the procedure get stocks. And here we will start by getting or declaring a last row variable. And that last row should be equals to the um, last row with value in the stocks worksheet. So after we get the last row, we can set our stocks list box, that is the LST inventory. So LST inventory that row source is equals to the stocks. So the first cell is A3 to H. So we'll say A3 to H and concatenate the last row variable. Next, we also need a user form activate event, similar with what we did on the tree user form. So look for the user form object, and from here, look for the activate event. Let's remove some space in here and add some space in here. So for the user form activate event, let's start by calling the initialize procedure that set our worksheet variable. And then here we also have a date for the or a label for the current date or the system date. So to set that, we can say LBL today's date that caption is equals to formatted date. And we also need to call the hide from title bar form or hide form title bar to hide our user form title, as well as we also need to call the get stocks to refresh our stocks or inventory stocks list box. So we can test, I'm sorry, we can test this from here by clicking the run button, and this seems to be working. We also have here now the system date available. Let's go back to the VBA editor. Let's start adding the code for this tree button. So for the product, we will just hide this user form and show the product user form. Same with the other button. So this one is the receive button, and that is the that show. And last is for the sales. So let's hide this and that show. All right. And what else do we need to code in here? All right, the X label or our close button. So double click in there. And what I want to happen here is that if user click this, there should be a message box asking the user if he or she really wants to exit the tool. So we'll say if message box, are you sure you want to exit or to close the tool? And we will be using the question icon and BBS no button and the M title variable for the message box title. And then we'll validate if user click the yes button. So if the user click the yes button, we can first save the workbook for the user update and we'll write end to close the user form. Now we can test it. So this is our main user form. If I click this, there is a message box. If I click no, it will not close. If I click it again and select yes, it will end the user form and save our form. Now we also need to add the code in this button. So just right click in this shape button, select assign macro. We have the code created for that button earlier. So select start inventory and hit OK. If we click that, it will launch the inventory system user form. Now let's try to add a new product. So maybe we can give it a code AO2. This may be a monitor. and this is in a box. For the monitor, I don't know the price, maybe 250. Let's hit add and close this. Now it returns us to the main form where we can see the monitor product has been added with no received sales tax value yet. So let's add a value to that monitor item. That is the AO2. Let's add maybe like a 10 for the quantity. That is added to our quantity list. And if we go back to the main form, we can see we have now received value for the monitor. Also, the total price is set to the received quantity multiplied by the price. Now let's try to make a sales for that monitor. So select the AO2 code and maybe we can put 5 quantity for the sales, hit add. Now we have the monitor a sales transaction added. If we go back to the main user form, we can see here that uh, we only have now 5 stocks because there are 5 sales. And yes, this is now working our basic in-out inventory system. I hope that you learn from this video. If you want to learn more about VBA user form, like how you can send data from a user form to the worksheet, I have this video available for you if you're just starting with VBA. That is for beginner level, so you'll get familiar with how I manipulate things, especially data with user form to the Excel worksheet. Again, that's all for this video. Again, if you like this kind of video, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Thank you and see you in the next VBA video.